Hey, welcome back to Mornings with the Mayor. I'm your host, Robert C. Dye, just out here lounging in FB, trying to have a cup of coffee, get my day started. We're back with episode 6 as we continue to dive into items of community interest, speak with local leaders, and provide a more in-depth look into items affecting our community. Didn't have a chance to hit a local coffee shop today, but I did make one here in my kitchen, so feel good about that. It's good to be self-sufficient, especially during these times. But our discussion today couldn't be more timely. We're in the middle of the May, approaching the end of the month, and we kind of know what time that is for a lot of kids in our community. And so with that, we want to welcome Dr. John Chapman, superintendent for CFB-ISD. Dr. Chapman, you've been a busy man, that's for sure. How you holding up?
Things are good. You know, we're now on week 10 of closure. And, you know, when we first started this closure piece, working with the Texas Education Agency, working with the governor and the commissioner of education, everything was changing literally by the hour. And so as of today, now into week 10, we have a pretty good handle on the processes we're taking, at home learning, et cetera.
Yeah, and you guys have been doing a tremendous job with all your efforts, messaging, just keeping people informed, but also taking care of a lot of our most vulnerable people during this difficult time. And, you know, it's affected all of us, you know, our kids, our families, teachers, but, you know, it affects us personally too. And so, you know, you have 2 kids, both in school, one who's about to be a senior. And so just wondering from your point of view, you know, how has this affected you personally and your family, and especially your son who's about to enter his senior year?
Sure. You know, it's you know, he's a big sports guy and plays baseball and football, and we'll go to the next level to play sports, and this is devastating for a child. And so I see that firsthand, knowing that, you know, they didn't get to play baseball this year. Also, you know, very social kid and not being able to be around friends. I mean, that's it. And so I understand that. Whenever I get the hundreds of emails from parents each and every day, I get it. And I understand what they're going through and what steps that we're trying to take to bring normacy, to try to provide, you know, social and health of children while they're separated from friends and or the society. And so trying to do all of those balances is very difficult. And walking into next year, their senior year, what is that going to look like? How are we going to develop plans and set maybe a new norm? Who knows? We're still walking through that with the governor as we speak.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be a challenge that we're all anxiously waiting to see what that's going to look like and what the fall might lead to. And I know, you know, we're going to have a lot more discussions about, you know, not only this school year, summer, next school year, things like that. But, you know, just so everyone's a little bit more aware, you know, I'd love to understand a little bit more about your path to CFB-ISD. Mm-hmm. And I know some of that takes you back through Lubbock days where I spent some time as well. But I think you also were kind of a sports guy yourself, right? Down at A&M. Is that?
I was.
Right?
I was blessed to be able to play some college ball. And so, yeah, that's how I actually got into education. Is I had coaches in high school that saw something in me and believed in me, and I'm a first generation college student in my family, and that pathway led me to be able to play college football. I was I was a fullback. That was, again, 25 years ago, so understand. But it also gave me the opportunity to go to college, play ball, and then having something that I could attach to that got me through college. And once I started to go through that process and getting a bachelor's degree, I started to look at life as, what do I want to do? So I went in, actually I was going into vet school, and I was going to go through the process, and going through that, I stopped one day, and I was married. My wife said, well, you know, what are you thinking? And I said, you know what, I'm subbing right now because we didn't have any money. And so we were going through the process, and I said, you know what, I want to make a bigger and greater difference in the lives of children, especially those that are underprivileged, maybe that are at risk. And I want to do what those coaches and counselors did for me. So I started all over. We moved, went to Texas Tech. My wife and I both got a master's degree, and I later got a doctorate degree. And I just continued that passion of what can I do to help children. So I started off in a very small school as a superintendent, and wanted more. I wanted to help more. I wanted to help more children. And so I moved into a school 10 times larger and started that pathway for 7 years. I said, you know what, I want to do more than that. And went 5 times bigger. And that was in Ennis, my last job. And then I moved on to CFB, 5 times bigger, to try to impact as many children as I possibly can. You know, my motto is educating the whole child, making sure that our children have all the basic essentials. And if we do that and we provide them with the rich curriculum that CFB has, they're going to flourish. And so that's been one of my goals, being a servant leader. You know, I say this all the time, that it's not our money, it's not our kids, and it's not our facilities, it's the taxpayers. So how can we be true stewards of their money? How can we be true stewards of the dollars that they give each and every year and that they can be proud of?
Yeah, and you know, I know that a lot of people agree with those sentiments. And you know, you talk about, you know, how can you help, you know, kids? How can you enrich their lives? And one of the, you know, fantastic things that you all are doing right now is the meal distribution program, where you're still providing meals to those vulnerable in our community, especially in our district, because I think it's 90% are on free or reduced lunch and 65, 67% are economically disadvantaged. And one of the concerns was, how are we going to deal, you know, with, you know, that issue, especially during times while people have to stay at home, while people might be losing their jobs, knowing that these kids, some of their only meals were coming at our schools, and how could we continue that? So, you know, can't thank you enough for the work that you and your team, especially the frontline workers for the school district, the cafeteria staff, they're still out there providing these meals and making a difference. But how is that process going, and kind of what's going to happen as we move into the summer? Is that program still going to continue?
Yeah, so first of all, kudos to our frontline staff. We have a tremendous amount of people, over 118 people that work to put together over 52 to 56,000 meals every single week. And we send those out, and we have to follow guidelines through that process. And so they have done a tremendous job making this work. Will we continue? Yes, we just got approved to continue the food service distribution in June and July. And so we'll continue that process. We've also partnership with the North Texas Food Bank, and it was actually on Channel 8 last night, where they're coming in and they're continuously providing food and meals for anyone that shows up. It doesn't necessarily have to be our children, but we feel that that's essential to make sure that our children are being fed, since they're not with us each and every day. And we will continue to do so during these times.
You know, really grateful that program has continued, and that we're going to be able to see that go forward in the summer. I know that means a lot to the families here in our communities, just to know that not only families, but the kids are being taken care of as well. But when you think about the families, the students, the parents, the teachers, you know, how have they adapted to this new normal, and what's been the greatest challenge? And is there kind of a silver lining with this new normal? What's your take on that?
Well, you know, so I'm going to say, you know, 10 weeks ago when we came out of spring break and announced that we were going to be closed, we did not have a roadmap. We didn't have a guide. We had nothing to lean on. The Texas Education Agency had nothing in place. The governor had no script to follow. And so, you know, we had to start building, what is that new norm? How are we going to do stay-at-home learning? What is this going to look like for our children? How can we continue to support them? So I will say, from day one or week 1 to week 10, we've gotten better and better and better each and every time in those processes and procedures. One of the biggest struggles that we've had is that, again, as you had mentioned, with our high number of economically disadvantaged and high at-risk students, Wi-Fi. How are we providing them with the devices so that they can do at-home learning? When we first started the process, we had 6,300 children that did not have a device and or did not have Wi-Fi. I'm proud to announce today that we have a little over 1,200 that do not. Now, one child is too many, so let me make that very clear. So we're still working through those processes and procedures. We're also working with several companies to provide free Wi-Fi for children throughout X. And I mean, I'm not saying August, I'm not saying September, I'm talking about until for the near future. We have, the Board of Trustees have been very fortunate to allow us to start handing out Chromebooks. So we started that process, and we were handing out thousands of Chromebooks to to children all across the district. Well, then we learned that, some parents aren't as savvy with, how do you turn it on? What if I have this issue? So we started setting up twice a week, which we still do, troubleshooting, problem solving, etc. We even have tents and booths set up at certain locations every single week, 5 hours twice a week for the parents to come up and say, now, how do we work with this? How do we do this? And how do we handle these processes and procedures moving forward? We're getting better and better and better each and every day to provide that. We'll continue to provide more devices. We've bought more hotspots until we can solve the bigger picture of what we're trying to do. But that has been a struggle since that very beginning, is just knowing that so many children didn't A, have a device, B, have a Wi-Fi access to connect. But now it's changed how we've done a lot of things. So I Zoom about 10 to 12 times a day, where before, we had to meet together. We all had to have coffee. We had to do, have lunch. We had to do all these things. I think that's going to change. So where people can actually stay in their office and we're just as productive of 12, 15, 18 of us sitting around looking at a computer and talking, we're still solving those same issues. But what is that going to look like for the future of education? Is there going to be more virtual? How is that going to move the system? Now, my concern is early literacy. So, a child that's in first, second, third grade, the key or one of the goals across the state and definitely CFB is children being able to read on grade level by third grade. Mm-hmm. And if they can do that, the success of that child all the way through 12th grade and beyond is very high. If we can't do that, or let me even put it this way, how are we going to teach reading for first, second, third graders? And so we're walking through that a little more. That face-to-face with that teacher is vital to teach those phonics and to grow those children's minds. And so that's still something that I know yesterday as a group of over 80 superintendents discussed. How are we going to push this forward as we move into the summer and then into the fall? Because summer, there's always a lag. There's always, when they get out into May and they come back in August, there's always a lag in learning. Well, add 10 to 12 more weeks onto that, there's going to be a very large lag. And so how many of our littles, as we would call them, first, second, third graders, how many of those have slid back in that reading process, and how can we now tackle that? So we're looking at several different summer programs that we can provide for our children well in advance of August to try to make sure that we get them up to speed. So there's a plan coming out. We're meeting with the other Dallas County districts right now so that we can all be one in our plans as we send out maybe a step-by-step process on how this is going to look.
Yeah, and I think that some of the silver lining which you touched on is through some of the adversity of not having a plan, this just being thrust on y'all and having to deal with this on the fly. I think those type of challenges allow us to become more innovative, to think of new ways to accomplish the goals that we still need to accomplish. And when you talk about getting kids more Wi-Fi and ensuring that every house, the number that you brought down is actually tremendous and a great step towards making sure that the number hopefully becomes zero. But the fact that it's not just, hey, can we do this temporarily? It's how do we look at this to be something that is an ongoing course of action or solution for our school district to make sure kids can learn at home, and with more people adopting to Zoom, like you, like myself, or any of the other platforms, whether it's Teams, whatever you want to call it. Is that a different way that teachers and others can also help reach the kids a little bit more too, to provide additional learning? But when you talk about that lag in the summer, and this is probably the only question I might divert a little, is when you see that lag, when you think about the 12 lost weeks or however long it might be, does that ever lend itself to the idea? I know some states have year-round school. Are there any merits to that or consideration given? How are we going to catch back up and do some of these things? Or is it just we need to be a little bit more innovative with what we have as we move forward? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we talked about that today with the Commissioner of Education with the state is, what is that going to look like? Will we have year-round school? Will we have where they're calling intercessions between amongst the school year, and then you go into school through June and July? There's a lot of political pieces onto that too. When you get into Six Flags and tourism and all of those things, I've I've been superintendent now 16 years, and I've seen to where we're going to push that year round, and all of a sudden, no, you're not, because this is the amount of taxes that we're going to lose through X. And so, but I'm going to say that window and that door is open right now, and the commissioner's provided all 1,100 districts across the state of Texas with some new samples of what that could look like and what will that look like. A normal calendar has 2 bad weather days. And so if you don't, in the event you can't go to school, you have to make them up on these 2 days. He's actually talking about right now up to 7 weeks of bad weather weeks is what he's calling them right now. What would that look like? Because we may have several more waves of COVID. And if it comes through and we're shut down at a stay-at-home order, how are we going to make up that time? And so building those into the calendar may be an option that superintendents are looking at today. But what does that mean? Does that mean we're going into June and July? Absolutely. And I'm talking about in 2021. We would have to. So we're talking through that. I mean, literally, we've only had one meeting. He gave us 7 different samples, and we're looking at those now to start to look at what is that new norm and how can we make that work for us. I know schools, Conroe ISD did a year round for a while, but here's the downside. And this is what my struggle is. Again, with our high socioeconomic status and our children, let's say that we don't miss any school and we do have 2 weeks off in October. Well, what are those parents going to do with those children for 2 weeks? And so I struggle with that piece. I know they struggle now when we take off 3 days during Thanksgiving. Well, the kids get a whole week. So, they're having a hard time. Where am I going to send the children? Where are they going to go? Who's going to watch them? Because if they're under age 12, they're supposed to have adult supervision. So I struggle with a lot of that to determine, what is going to be that best fit and what actually works for CFB.
Yeah, I mean, what's been fascinating right now is it seems that any and all discussions are open, whether you're a school district, whether you're a city, whether you're at the state, whether you're a corporation. Everyone right now is scrambling to reimagine what their future looks like and how they can bounce back from this and continue to succeed. And so when you talk about success, one performance metric that we all look at in the schools is our grades. So how are students receiving grades during this closure, and what does that look like?
Yeah, that took us a little while to figure out what does our grading policy and procedures look like. Again, we have to look at too. We're not a Highland Park ISD. We're CFB, a little different set of children, and so we had to look at first how many of them had Wi-Fi, and I mentioned that 6,300 didn't at the time. Some schools went with a pass-fail, which was not a good idea. They actually have all, or not all, but majority of them have switched back to a grade because how that's going to affect an 8th grader on up through 12th grade. And we start looking at class ranks, et cetera. So that wasn't a good option. So we were still toiling through some of those pieces. But what we decided to do is look at what they had already done in their other 6 weeks grades, take those averages, and then set a number. So let's say a child has an 80 average when you average out the year, then that was going to be their grade for the 4th and 5th 6 weeks. But one thing that we did that was different than others, let's say there's children that are working extremely hard at home, that grade, they could actually get a 90 during the stay-at-home learning piece, and then we would average the 90 with the 80, and they'd have an 85 average. So they could get better, but they could not get worse. We didn't want to hinder any single child in their grade if they didn't have the tools, the support at home. And so when we implemented this, I've noticed a lot of other districts then implemented that same process. Because again, you don't want to hurt them, but you want to help them, and then you want to reward them for those that are doing the work that the teachers are providing for them. So it's been a win-win overall.
Yeah, that's been, that's a great model. And I like that it also encourages the kids to say, hey, if you put in the work right now and you show improvement, we're going to reward you for that. And especially staying away from the pass fail. I think that was a good decision. But when you think about grades, you think about what they mean. And now, we're looking to graduation. What are the plans for the 2020 graduation?
Well, we're meeting again tomorrow with the Texas Motor Speedway, finalizing everything. But we had to look at several options. First of all, whenever we were looking at the Texas Motor Speedway, we didn't even have guidance from the governor at that time. So we do now, but we are still not allowed to have graduation indoors, period. We're still not allowed to have a graduation outside like the normal one-town high school. They do it at a stadium until after June 1st. So we walk through what can we do to make this work. So what we're going to do, we're going to be at Texas Motor Speedway. There'll be 18 districts actually graduating. They start on Monday. Ours is May 30th. We'll start at 8 a.m. Will be our first one with Branchview and Early College High School. And then our last one will begin at 7 p.m. that night. So we're all day graduation at Texas Motor Speedway. But what we're going to be able to do to meet the guidelines of the county judge, and this is in Denton County, not Dallas County. So Judge Eanes, he's blessed the layout. What we're going to do is kids are going to come in their cars. They're all going to get a pass, and they're going to park to the left. All the parents will also get a pass, and they're going to park to the right, and they're going to be able to see everything on the big screen. The things that we learned from parents that they wanted, most of all, they wanted their child to at least walk across the stage and get a picture that we could actually see and to actually receive a diploma. And so that's why we developed this plan. We still get the vow and sow still to get to give their speech to their classes. All the children will be lined up 6 feet apart in chairs. And then we're going to shift them all from the right to the left. And we're going to still follow that same process and procedure. As soon as it's done, again, parents cannot get out of the cars. Then when they dismiss, they're going to go out the north side and all the cars will funnel out the north. And then we'll be bringing in the next group. So all that the parents were asking for, I just wish we could do X, Y, and Z. We were able to accomplish that through Texas Motor Speedway. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be as close to normal? Absolutely. Did it meet all the requests that parents had and sent to me? Every single one of them. So I think it's a big win. And it's the absolute best that we can possibly do. You know, like Dallas ISD, they're doing solely virtual. And so you're not going up there. They're going to mail you a diploma. You'll get to see your child's, picture for I think 3 seconds. And they move on to the next one. Well, we're going to do just the opposite. They'll be in caps and gowns. They'll grab a diploma, take a picture with their principal, superintendent, and then walk off stage. So I'm pretty proud of the process that we're going to do. And one thing that parents have asked, can we do this? Can we do that? And the answer is no. Texas Motor Speedway set up a process and a procedure that all 18 schools must follow. So CFB can't do something different than Louisville or Denton ISD are doing. We're all going to be exactly the same because they also have to follow the guidelines set by the county judge.
Yeah, that's a great plan. And I'm glad you guys were able to accomplish the goals of still having kids in cap and gown walk across the stage, receive a diploma. That's really cool. And, the innovation to go to Texas Motor Speedway, I just think about, first thing I thought about when I heard that was, man, that's a massive screen. So everyone should be able to see everything that's going on. But, it's cool to see. And I'm sure you talked with other superintendents about what they're doing, because I know some school districts are trying to go to, the new ballpark in Arlington and some of these other larger facilities where social distancing can still be accomplished and people can, still have somewhat of a ceremony. So, that speaks back to that same innovation piece. How are we being creative? How are we being innovative to still provide, what these kids need and what they were most looking forward to during this time? And so, when you think about what happens on the other side of this, and we've talked about it, previously, but it's, should parents continue to expect online learning in the fall, and what does next school year look like? Because, you're already starting to hear of, colleges in California, I think a San Diego State has already decided we're going to be virtual in the fall. And, I'm just thinking, okay, well, if they're coming into that, I know Texas is a completely different state and we're doing things a little bit differently than they are, but what are y'all looking at doing and how are you feeling? I know you're probably still having meetings, but just trying to get some clarity on what fall 2020 might look like.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on further guidance from the Commissioner of Education to what that looks like. We have 3 basic options. One is going back to normal, as we always have, not likely. 2 is going to be a hybrid, so that we may have, split up children to a morning session, afternoon. Maybe it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday's all virtual. And then option C may be to where everything is virtual. And how do we play those roles out? elementary may look different than secondary, because again, we need those littles to be face to face with those teachers so that we can teach them to learn, and the mathematics skills and all of those pieces that are needed. So we're still walking through. We have several plans right now. I did receive a plan or a re-entry plan or checklist from Judge Jenkins yesterday. It's 8 pages long before we're even allowed to reopen. And so I saw that last night. So we got a lot of work to do. But what people don't understand is, even from picking children up on a school bus, we have to show distancing. How will a cafeteria work? How can we get, especially take a little first grader, second grader and tell them they have to stay 6 feet apart? It's going to be a task. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to feed meals? Are we allowed to use water fountains? What will gym look like? Can we go outside and everyone play on the swings? I mean, those are all things that have to be considered right now, that we're working out the details. And it's literally 8-page checklist of things. Can we actually accomplish this, and what will this look like? But here's one of the other pieces that we talked about too across the state of Texas, is that 37% of the teachers in the state of Texas are over the age of 55. And so, there's a concern that how many, teachers, or how many people, children have family members, grandparents, and even parents that may have health issues at home. And if that child is not showing symptoms, but then they're bringing COVID back into the home, what is that going to look like? So there's so many things that we're trying to iron out right now. And that's why we're just meeting back to back each and every day, walking through what are next steps. Dallas ISD, Michael Hinojosa, he made a bold statement and said, here's what we're looking at. Here's plan A, B, C. It's our same plan. But then there's probably going to be a C A, a C B, a C F, more than likely in the end. And he's right, because we just constantly are looking, changing, talking, weighing out the pros and the cons. And so do we truly know what next year will be? And the answer is we do not. There's still so much more that we have to look at. It's also probably going to be just like we did it in March, where we had plan A, and now we're on plan triple Z right now. It will change as August comes. And then what if another wave comes through, as they're predicting? I'm going to be with CDC today at 1:00, and they're going to walk through what their predictions are for June, July, but even September and November, and what those waves may take us as we have to restructure our processes in 2021 school year.
Yeah. And, in terms of restructuring and what does this look like? But if online continues into the fall, and if there are additional waves, like you said, later this year that could push this out even further, what ramification does that have after, if it is a full year of doing that and being educated that way? What does it look like in terms of coming back to a school and back to the building, which will segue into my next question, which is regarding, the bond and the construction projects, and, how are we dealing with some of those? Have we accelerated some of them just because kids aren't in the schools right now? And, was there an opportunity to move some of that up? But if we think about the virtual piece of it, and what does that look like going forward, do the facilities need to be as big in the future as maybe they are now, or what we were contemplating?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, this could change everything for us, for the future. And how do facilities even look? The great thing is we started looking at what does a 22nd century learning facility entail. And so you'll see in some of our new buildings, like at Vivian Field, you're going to see a whole new learning atmosphere, which is going to be conducive to a lot of virtual. It's going to have a lot of collaborative learning spaces that are going to be provided. Same thing that we're doing for one of our first elementaries at McWhorter. So we were already thinking through this before we even heard of a closure, before we even knew what COVID-19 was. And so we're staying ahead of the game. So I think that's going to be a great benefit for us. But due to the closures, we've been very fortunate that we jumped ahead of just about every district. And so we started doing major construction renovations during this closure. So for example, McWhorter Elementary, we weren't going to start until mid-June, and we're going to probably be done in early July now. And the building will be back on track. Same thing with turfing all of our high school field. We were able to get those crews in because literally the next week he had about 25 districts calling them to say, hey, we need you to come do this now that we're not going to have baseball. Well, they'd already committed to us. And every one of those, since we got the fast track, has saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars. You lump them all together, we've actually saved millions of dollars getting ahead of the game in those processes. And so we have sped up on quite a few projects, and we're going to continue to do so. And so they're on standby now looking at diving deeper into some of our major projects, like at R.L. Turner. I mean, there's close to $40 million in projects. And so already unleashing some of those to start a faster track to, while kids aren't here, we can move 10 times faster instead of kids being in the facility. So we've started that process. So it's been a big win for us. Michael Maroney and his team has just jumped ahead. We took a little risk. And then knowing now that when the governor made announcement for the closure all the way through the end of the school year, literally that day, we unleashed all of the construction companies, Jackson Construction, to start that process before anyone else did.
Yeah, no, Michael's, Mr. Maroney's been great. I've had the pleasure of serving not only on the Citizens Advisory Committee, but now the Bond Advisory Committee, and going through that process and just everything that you guys are doing to move our school systems forward. I was very proud of the final renovations that happened at McLaughlin-Strickland and seeing that being opened up. What a beautiful addition that's going to be. And I'm excited to see, what Vivian Field ends up looking like, and R.L. Turner. Two of the schools that I went to and cherished because they still look like they did when I went there today, which is, brings back a little nostalgia when I walk through those hallways. But, when you think of nostalgia and you think of, when I went there and who made the differences in my life, I can name several teachers off the top of my head that had a profound impact in who I ended up becoming. And so, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. And, I know there were so many heartfelt messages that went out to the community and to our teachers, not only in CFB-ISD, but just across the nation for the work that they are doing right now and how grateful we are for, the efforts that they are putting in to still educate our kids. But what do you want the community to know about our teachers right now?
Yeah, our teachers are working even harder than they ever had before. And in so many cases, a lot of them are having to learn the new norm and this virtual atmosphere, and then trying to work with the individual kids. And so, I just want to give a big shout out to them and just thank them so much for everything that they're doing for us. And you got to understand, most teachers are social individuals. They love to be around children. They love to be around people, and they're not able to, for the last 10 weeks. And so, I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. But I also want to say thank you to the city leaders that have also, did shout outs to them and tell them how much we appreciate what they're doing and the hard work that they continue to do each and every day. And we laugh in CFB right now because we don't even know if it's Monday or Sunday because we're constantly working. I mean, it's just, I'm amazed. But our teachers are doing the same thing. And so they're just constantly making sure that they're taking care of their little babies. And so reaching out to them, constantly doing checks. What a lot of people don't understand is we're not just, calling or seeing if we're logging on. If we're not getting a hold of them, they're even going doorstep to doorstep. I probably shouldn't be saying that publicly. But we're trying to make sure that we reach every single child and make sure what is it that we need so that you can continue to stay on track. And parents, how can we support you? Is there something else that we can be doing for you to move this system forward? Are we perfect? 150% no. But we're getting better and better each and every day. And it's solely because of our teachers.
Yeah. And, as they're learning, as they're spending more hours doing this, as they're getting more creative, you're going to see, it's going to get better. It's going to get easier for them. They're going to find the right way to continue to reach these kids. And regarding the door to door, I know exactly what you meant. I've seen it, all over social media where we have teachers in the yards trying to help, staying 6 feet away, doing it responsibly to make sure that each student gets the help. And, people are, I think, now starting to realize that true value that these teachers bring to our community, and the fact that these aren't people that just are looking for a job. They truly have a servant's heart and want to help. And the way that they've reached out to a lot of these kids in this time, just shows who they are and what they're doing and the true service and value that they bring to not only our kids, but our community. And so, like you, just a shout out, they're doing an amazing job, and so thankful to have all the teachers that we do in CFB-ISD and, not only in Dallas County, but across the nation for what they do. And when you talk about, community leaders working as hard as you guys are to try to make sure we're doing the right things for our communities to make it safe, but to still allow people to move around and have some sense of normalcy so that, we're not worried about a lot of the mental health issues, and one question, just wondering, that is an issue that we're seeing is the mental health issues, and some of that stuff in May is mental health month. How is CFB working with some of these kids as well in some of those aspects? Just because, I know that was something that our counselors were very active in making sure that these kids stay on track and stay positive.
And we're still doing those as we speak, and we're busier now than we ever have been. And so, just another kudos to our counselors, to where we had counseling services free of charge to families and children during the spring semester. But we've continued those. We're also still tracking students. So if students, state something on social media, we get alert immediately. And fortunately, but unfortunately, there's been several outcries, and we were able to address those in a matter of hours. To where we had people on the doorstep, working with the families, having law enforcement involved to support this child during these emotional times. We're still continuing to do the counseling. We're going to continue to do the counseling services all the way through August. Our security department is still monitoring 24 hours a day social media for kids and seeing, where their emotional state is. We did another partnership with Children's Health. So we're going to be releasing another program starting in the next 2 weeks, and that's going to run all the way through the summer months as well to support our families. We've got a number of programs that we've implemented through Joe Gillen's team that is just going above and beyond that CFB is able to support. Some of it comes out of CFB's pocket, but most of it does not. Most of it comes from grants from the state and federal level, and we took advantage of those to move that work. Again, because people just, it's easy to see a kid each and every day, and you can look at their face and their demeanor and see if they're up or down, and then a teacher can address that and send them to a counselor instantly. But we don't have that, and so many cases they're having to do an outreach to us, and or if they post something social media wise, that we can address it literally within hours and be someone be on their doorstep. So they're staying ahead of it. Again, trying to just monitor and support those families and those children through these times.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I love what y'all are doing in the different ways, again, evolving, learning how to monitor the situation and worry about, the full health of the child, and that you guys are looking at and taking care of that entire spectrum, which, I think y'all are tremendous leaders in the region doing that. And when you think about the partnerships that Children's Health has brought, to the school district, as well as Metro Crest Hospital Authority, and working with several of these other groups, there's a lot of innovative programs that are coming out of that. But, how can how can community partners continue to work with our schools during this time? And what is it that y'all are needing from us that we might be able to provide?
We're, the biggest piece still is food, and to providing food for our children and our families. With especially with the number of layoffs that have taken place and the unemployment that we've had. And so we've had a number of partnerships to where, we're opening our doors and we're assisting with our people, our workers, to distribute food. And so we're still providing dinners to kids through Be a Champion. We're now doing free fruits and vegetables to children, to where they get 25 pounds of food several days a week through Bright Bites. Through obviously Metro Crest and Tracy Eubanks and the work that they're doing. That partnership is just tremendous, and how they're working hand in hand. And then the North Texas Food Bank and how we're partnershiping with them and disseminating literally tens of thousands of pounds of food each week. And so, that's probably the biggest piece. Obviously, just our giving house, to where, even while kids aren't here, they still need the essentials. And so we're making sure that we're providing that. And we've had an overwhelming amount of donations, and we're buying and sending things out just as fast as we can, to help children through these times. But my biggest concern and need is making sure that they're eating, making sure that they have the hygiene products that they need. And so And we're doing that, and we're trying to do it with fidelity. And then at the same time, the social and emotional side of things that we constantly need support. And so anything that we can do and people can assist in that process, we're grateful for, and we'll continue to do so. And anytime that we've asked for anyone for support across the community, I mean, even doing celebrations and parades for seniors, we did an ask, and PTA jumped on it so fast, and we had so many people come to the table to help, or teacher appreciations and sending out certificates and little gift bags and all that. The people just came out of the woodwork to support us. And so we can't thank everyone enough. And so as we come up with some ideas for appreciation, we'll send it out, and we just have literally, and I'm not saying a few, hundreds of volunteers. So some people will say, well, maybe on the next round, but that's wonderful that our community is wanting to do so much for CFB.
Yeah, it's, Texas, that's what we're known for. We all have a heart the size of Texas. I mean, you saw it with Hurricane Harvey. You've seen it with, any kind of disaster that rolls through here. We rally together and take care of our own very well. And it's just so great to continue to see that. And one of the follow-up questions I was going to have was about the Giving House, but glad to hear that, that's still going, and that you guys are still able to utilize that program to help these kids. And, I know that's something that you kind of brought to the table when you became superintendent, something that, you thought that could be an added benefit to continue helping our kids. But, kind of one of my final questions, and just want to, hear from you in terms of, what's been your proudest moment so far in the almost, 2 years you've been at CFB-ISD?
Just trying to build a culture of customer service, and to be able to provide for the whole child, that, and that's why I feel like that's why I'm on this earth. That's why I feel like that I do what I do. And in some cases, some districts, it's a struggle to get that going. People don't actually see that vision and see that need. And I'm gonna tell you, just in I'm about to start my third year very soon, and to take what we have done in such a short time, and the people that have been able to rally behind this thought and this idea of us helping the whole child has been just absolutely tremendous. What normally takes a 3 to 4 year process was able to get done in literally about 16 months time. And having people not only donate their services, but their funds, it's just been tremendous. So that's where I say we were able to make great gains in such a short time that I'm so proud of that. And guess what? If you educate the whole child, they're going to do well in school, believe it or not. If you care and love for someone, guess what? They're going to work hard for you. And that's what we've seen. We've seen discipline drop. We've seen children excel more because they know we care, we love them, and we're there to provide them. We all use the word customer service easy. Oh, I said thank you, and I gave a smile. That's not what customer service is. Customer service is the experience that you leave with people. When people leave you, that's the true customer service. Why does Disney World do such a great job? It's the experience that you have while you're there and what you're going to remember. And so that's what we're trying to push in CFB. And there has been literally no roadblocks as we've implemented this. And I can't say that across the state of Texas and places that I've been. And so that's what I would say. Just, it's not me, it's what the people have done to get behind these different priorities, I guess you could say, that I've had. And there's been 18 different priorities, and every one of them have moved successfully and moved quickly.
That's great to hear. I know that you talking about you teaching the whole child. I felt I received the same thing going through this school system, and one of the greatest takeaways I had was learning how to become a lifelong learner. Which, while I might not have been the best student while I was there, but I was a lot of fun. But it still prepared me for what I needed to get through college, to get through grad school, to, go to work in the real world and start my own company and work for myself. And what I would see is I feel like I've been somewhat successful in my life, and none of that would have happened without going through this school district, which has given me so much. So just watching you lead it, very, very proud and thankful for all that you're doing during this time, and how you're working with the teachers and our community just to make sure that this keeps going during such a difficult event in our lives, one that I think many of us will never forget, and they'll be talking about for years. But I do want to move into a few of the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Just to they're kind of off the cuff a little bit. But first, A&M or Texas Tech?
Oh, Texas Tech all the way.
Okay, you might be one of the few people that have ever said that.
Texas Tech all the way. Yes.
All right. Good. But you're also a big lover of the outdoors. And so what's your favorite place to go by yourself? But then what's your favorite place to go with your family? And third, what is a place that, since you go to so many places, what is a place that I should probably add to my list of places to go to?
Well, one of my favorite places to go by myself is Africa. Just love Africa. Been over there a number of times, and just seeing the different cultures, and you get to appreciate when you come home what running water. I mean, just that alone is something that we take for granted so many times. So Africa is great. Love it. With the family, love Alaska. We love Alaska, love Cabo, love to get out, be on the water. Just a great place to be a part of. One of the most interesting, and if you haven't been, it's a little, you think about your life a little bit, but we're going through Russia and going down the back, or going to Iraq and going to the back countries, going up into the mountains. It's eye-opening, because what you see so many times on the front line, or I'm going to call it the tourist area, and you get outside that tourist area, isn't so pleasant and so nice. But I love those adventures, and I love taking those. And so if you haven't seen it, see some parts of the world that are just untouched is to me breathtaking, and just being able to be a part of what God's created. And so I love those. We were going to go for the first time to Australia. I know you've been, but we ended up having to cancel because we just don't know what COVID's going to do. We're going in March for my wife's and I's 25th anniversary. So we're going to postpone it another year, but that's one area, or the only area, that I have not been. And so we were looking forward to it.
Well, then at that point, if you're going to delay it, you're just cancel the birthdays this year's too, stay the same age, and then still celebrate the 25th
That's it.
over there. But I didn't know you were so well traveled. That's amazing. But I too like to immerse myself in the cultures when I do travel and see. The tourist areas. That's great. I saw it, great. But how are the people living? How are they interacting? What does their community feel like? I really feel like that's the best way to go. And I too might have to reconsider one of my trips, which was first time to Alaska this year. Still contemplating what's that going to look like, but I've heard it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and so I've been excited about that. But if I have to push off until another time, might have to. But when we kind of before the show started, I know that I told you about this next question. You kind of ruined it. I was going to ask you if we'd ever see the goatee again, because you'd been so clean shaven for the first 2 years, and I'd seen some older photos, and I was like, I know he's rocked it before, but seeing it here, I have to switch the question, as just a personal question. Who's your all-time favorite RL Turner alumni?
Well, you are, obviously.
I wasn't trying to go to that. I was going to say, I was hoping you were going to say Vanilla Ice, who
I actually started to, but he didn't graduate there, from what I heard.
He went to, I think he finished at White, but he did those halls for a few years. So, I still think that a lot of, my generation still, loves it. That was actually the fact. But no, I truly want to, you gave a shout out to all the teachers. I want to give a shout out to you and all the administrators and the board of trustees for all the work that you all are putting in during this time. I know how hard you're working. I feel like I'm busier than I've ever been during this time, because there's so much communication and conversations and planning that need to happen to make sure that we can all get through this. And we're just grateful to have you, and really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your insights with the community to give them a little bit more understanding of what we're all doing, how we're working through this, and what it might look like going forward, so that everyone could kind of prepare and be ready for what's next. So I just want to say thank you. And anytime you want to come back, you are more than welcome. It's always good chatting with you.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to Farmers Branch and all that you guys are doing. You all have definitely set the stage. And and how you're supporting our, you know, our folks that don't have homes, and just, you've put your money where your mouth is, and we just can't thank you enough for your passion and y'all's servant heart to make a difference and truly help CFB and our family. So thank you.
Oh, appreciate it. It's been an honor. You know, like you, we want to take care of the whole child and make sure that they're stable and ready to learn, so that hopefully, you know, with kids that need to break the cycle, they can. And, you know, for future generations, everyone's just more successful and prosperous. So, but with that, I'm going to tell everyone, you know, thanks for watching Mornings with the Mayor. Again, Robert Dye, Dr. Chapman, thanks for being here. If you like the show, check out next week's episode. We'll be having a conversation with Dallas County Commissioner JJ Koch, just to get some updates on what's going on there as he represents our community, and just learn a little bit more. But until then, stay safe, stay home, stay positive, and we'll talk to you soon.